Bruges Group held at a club in London's West End.
We've been trying to tell Number 10 privately for months, really trying, that there's no way Chequers would get through the House of Commons because it doesn't have the support. But unfortunately, they've simply not been listening to advice. Well, here is something, that you can't ignore. This really is a kind of wet kipper in the face moment.
But he denied, as many here will do, that it brings any second referendum any nearer. Here they say, like Downing Street, the people have spoken and that is that. So who would have thought it, and remarkably from the Johnson clan of all places, a resignation message which commends itself to both sides of the great Brexit argument, Remainers and Brexiteers alike, saying, yes, we can subscribe to the idea that the worst of all worlds is being a bit in and a bit out of the Union. Plainly, Johnson Jr.'s valedictory assault yesterday on his boss's big idea warms the hearts of his fellow Remainers, as well as that of big brother Brexiteer Johnson Sr. Fellow Remainers like Philip Lee MP.
I don't think any of my Conservative colleagues want to bring down the government, but what they are concerned about is the national interest. They're putting their country first, and they can see that where we've arrived with regards to this Brexit arrangement is not what the Brexit voters voted for in 2016, let alone obviously the Remain voters.
So he says a second referendum is a no-brainer. Some Remainers clearly pulling the plug on the PM's plan. But what of the government's life support machine itself, the Democratic Unionists? They want reassurance, but say they're getting just more anxiety. Their party leader wrote today,
"Last week I wrote to the Prime Minister outlining broad concerns about the direction of travel. I wrote in the hope of reassurance and with the desire that an acceptable deal for us all was within grasp. Instead, I received confirmation that we were right to be concerned."
Away from it all in many ways, Jeremy Corbyn in North Yorkshire today, sampling the delights of Saltburn's funicular railway. For now, does he really have to do much more than simply watch the governmental car crash?
We are determined that we will hold them to account so that we can have a government in Britain that's serious about fairness and investment across the whole piece. Chequers doesn't do any of that. After all, most of the cabinet don't agree with Chequers. 7 ministers have already resigned over Chequers, and we've got 2 Johnsons at war with each other.
We will be subject to the EU regulations.
But what's this? Back down in London's clubland, even the Bruges Group are having their problems, ejecting a vociferous gentleman who'd taken the floor to attack them over their position on defence. Fractures and divisions wherever you look.
Alex Thompson there with that report, and joined now by the Conservative MP Chris Philp, who is in Croydon. Thank you for standing out in the rain. Now, Joe Johnson, who was resigned yesterday, is normally a man with whom you agree. So when he says that Theresa May's Brexit is a choice between being a vassal state in which we obey European rules and don't have a say in them, and chaos, why is he suddenly wrong?
Well, I think, Joe is a very nice and a very thoughtful man who I admire and respect, but I think he's been premature because the deal is still under negotiation. We don't know the exact form it's going to take, and we're probably not going to know for another number of 2 or 3 weeks, who knows? So I think his resignation is premature, and what he should have done, and what anyone thinking about this should do, is wait and see what the deal looks like, scrutinise it carefully when it's published, and then decide if you want to support it or not. Because to resign before it's even been negotiated is extremely, as I say, it's extremely premature.
But we know that what is being taken is a single market on goods in which we effectively obey European rules on goods with which we do not have a say, and that the fallback position is likely to be the UK staying in the customs union. So these are things that we would be obeying but not having any control over. That's what he means by vassalage. Why is that wrong?
So if you're talking about the backstop, I think you are, that is intended to be a temporary arrangement if there's a gap, if there's a lacuna between the end of the transition period and the start of our future trading relationship, and which may be a Canada-style free trade agreement, it may be more like the Chequers agreement, we'll find out. But the point is that the backstop, if indeed it's ever invoked at all, it can't be something which continues in perpetuity. The Prime Minister has been extremely clear, repeatedly, in public, in private, in the House of Commons, in the media, with the European negotiators, that we can't have a situation where the United Kingdom, or indeed any part of it, get stuck in a backstop of the kind you're describing with no way out. That is not something the Prime Minister is going to negotiate or agree to, and I don't think Parliament would agree to it either. So the situation you're describing, if it ever happened, would be temporary, and it would be within our power to leave it.
Well, the trouble is, I mean, you can say whatever you want, but it's not necessarily within our power in a legal agreement. Now, if we get to the point where this deal is voted down, what should the Prime Minister do?
Well, I mean, I think you're getting a bit ahead of ourselves because the deal hasn't even been negotiated yet.
Well, it's not looking good, is it?
Still, it's been voted down.
The DUP are against it, Labour's against it,
Christian,
the ERG in the Conservative Party are against it, the Remainers in the Conservative Party are against it. It's not looking like it's going to get through, to be honest, is it?
Well, I mean, I admire your attempt to draw me on something, speculating about something which has not even been agreed yet. It's still being negotiated, and as far as sort of my energy and efforts are concerned as a backbench member of Parliament, what I'm doing is trying to offer the government, suggestions and offer them my comments. For example, I'm very keen to make sure that there's a way of linking this £39 billion exit payment to the future state trade deal, whatever form that takes. So, I'm sort of offering my ideas. It's way premature to think about, what may happen if the deal gets voted down. It hasn't even been agreed yet. What we should all be doing, those of us with the national interest at heart, is supporting the Prime Minister in doing this very difficult negotiation.
What's the plan B?
Labour Party have come out and said, well, hang on, the Labour Party have come out and pretty much said they're going to vote against this deal no matter what it contains, and that is extremely irresponsible. What they should be doing, if they're a responsible opposition with the national interest at heart, is saying that they'll look at it and make a decision when it comes out. But they're not saying that. They're saying they'll vote against it no matter what, and that is irresponsible.
Chris Philp, thank you very much indeed. I don't think that's quite how Labour would characterise their position, but we'll let them speak for themselves.